Hello and welcome viewers. You're watching WION World is One. I'm Shivan Channa. This is Speed News. Let's start. Israel's former defense minister Yoav Gallant has announced his resignation from parliament. Gallant was dismissed in November after spearheading the military campaign in Gaza for more than a year. Gallant had been a vocal critic of Netanyahu's policies, particularly regarding the exemptions for ultra-Orthodox Jewish men from serving in the conscript military. He also opposed a proposed conscription law that would grant exemptions to ultra-Orthodox youth, arguing that it would undermine Israel's security. His resignation underscores the challenges Netanyahu faces in maintaining unity within his government. The Palestinian death toll from ongoing Israeli attacks in the Gaza Strip has risen to over 45,500, with an additional 108,000 injured, according to the Gaza-based health authorities. In a recent escalation, the Israeli army launched attacks on several areas in the Gaza Strip on New Year's Day, killing 21 people. The Israeli Air Force reported launching over 1,400 airstrikes on the Gaza Strip in December 2024, targeting armed strongholds, tunnels, arsenals and outposts. Humanitarian toll of the conflict continues to mount, with thousands of civilians, including women and children, caught in the crossfire. A Syrian delegation led by the foreign and defense ministers, along with the head of intelligence, has arrived in Riyadh, marking their first official foreign trip. This visit signifies a significant step towards re-establishing Syria's regional role, particularly after the Arab League reinstated Syria in 2023, following a decade-long suspension. Regional leaders are increasingly open to renewing diplomatic ties with Syria after the fall of the Assad government to rebel forces. A Tesla Cybertruck exploded outside the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas, leaving one person dead and at least 7 others injured. The FBI is investigating the incident, and authorities have evacuated the hotel as a precautionary measure. Videos taken by witnesses inside and outside the hotel showed the vehicle exploding and flames pouring out of it as it sat just outside the hotel. Impeached South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol continues to defy authorities, resisting arrest from inside his residence for the 3rd day in a row. And this comes after a court issued an arrest warrant on the 31st of December, stemming from his attempt to impose martial law in South Korea on the 3rd of December. Yoon Suk-yeol's legal team argues that the warrant is illegal and invalid, citing issues with the investigative authority and jurisdiction. They claim the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials lacks the authority to request the warrant and that it was issued by the wrong court. The situation has drawn crowds of both supporters and opponents of Yoon Suk-yeol, who have gathered outside his presidential residence. Meanwhile, members of his security team have blocked police attempts to enter the premises, escalating the standoff. South Korea's Constitutional Court welcomed 2 new justices, Cho Han-chang and Jeong Gae-seon, in an inauguration ceremony on Thursday. The two were appointed by acting President Choi Sang-mok following recommendations from the governing and opposition parties. The appointments come after the National Assembly voted to impeach Prime Minister Han Duck-soo for delaying the filing of 3 constitutional court vacancies. The court is set to review the impeachment case of President Yoon Suk-yeol. With new appointments, the chances of the court upholding Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment may have increased. A minimum of 6 out of 9 justices must vote in favor to formally end Yoon Suk-yeol's presidency. Gunman opened fire on a restaurant near the southern Montenegro city of Cetinje, killing at least 10 people, including 2 children. The shooter then continued his rampage across several locations before taking his own life. The motive behind the shooting spree is still unclear, and authorities have launched an investigation into the incident. The attack has sent shockwaves through the small Balkan nation, with Prime Minister condemning the violence and offering condolences to the families of the victims. Thousands of people attended the funeral of 4 Ecuadorian miners whose bodies were discovered near a military base in Guayaquil. The teens had been detained by soldiers on the 8th of December for alleged robbery and were reported missing until their bodies were found, sparking widespread outrage and demands for justice in Ecuador. 16 military personnel have been detained for investigation in connection with the forced disappearances of the miners and their murder. Honduran President Xiomara Castro has issued a stern warning to the incoming US administration, stating that mass expulsions of Honduran migrants could jeopardize military cooperation between the 2 nations. In her New Year's Day address, Castro expressed hope for constructive dialogue with Donald Trump's administration, while also urging them not to expel Honduran migrants from the US. Castro emphasized that the US has maintained military bases in Honduras for decades without providing any compensation. She argued that if the US adopts a hostile approach towards Honduran migrants, the presence of these bases would no longer be justified. Japanese Emperor Naruhito welcomed the new year with a heartfelt address to thousands of people gathered at Tokyo's Imperial Palace. Alongside his family, including Empress Masako and their daughter, Princess Aiko, Naruhito waved to the crowd and expressed his hopes for a peaceful and prosperous year. In his speech, Naruhito acknowledged the suffering of those affected by natural disasters, including the devastating quake that struck western Japan just last year. He emphasized the importance of accepting differences and working together towards world peace, noting that 2025 marks the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. After the emperor's address, the crowd broke into a solemn rendition of the national anthem. On New Year's Day, a group of daring Boston residents gathered for the city's traditional polar bear swim. Hosted by the L Street Brownies, the oldest swimming club in the US, the event drew a crowd of onlookers cheering on the brave participants. The festivities kicked off with a lively procession featuring bagpipes, costumes and swimsuits. The swimmers then charged into the icy 4 degrees Celsius ocean waters to mark the start of the new year. Severe flooding hit parts of the United Kingdom as heavy rains and powerful winds continue to disrupt New Year's celebrations. Several communities in the Manchester area were flooded, with several homes evacuated and cars submerged up to their roofs, on roads and in parking lots after nearly a month's worth of rain fell in 2 days. The river Mersey in Stockport and the river Tame in Thameside reached record levels, causing canals to burst their banks and city centre canals to overflow. The flooding also caused significant travel disruptions, with roads closed and train services cancelled. Sri Lankan police and the government's printer department faced cyber attacks. Hackers breached police accounts on platforms like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok and X. While most accounts were restored, the police YouTube remains inaccessible. According to police spokesman KB Manathunga, investigations have identified the hackers, but their motive remains unclear. The government's printer department website, which handles official announcements, was also attacked. CERT, Sri Lanka's Computer Emergency Response Team, confirmed no sensitive data was compromised. Hackers reportedly added data to the website without altering its core files. Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered his government and the country's biggest bank, Sberbank, to build cooperation with China in artificial intelligence. Putin's instructions come 3 weeks after he announced that Russia would team up with BRICS partners and other countries to develop AI. The reason behind partnering with non-Western countries is to challenge the dominance of the US in AI. According to Protus Media, a UK-based media company, Russia falls behind the US, China and India when it comes to AI implementation, innovation and investment. Greece is developing a wallet app to help parents manage their kids' digital lives. Expected to launch in March, the government-operated app is aimed at protecting children under the age of 15 from the risks of excessive and inappropriate internet use. According to a survey published by KMOP, a Greek research organization, around 76% of children aged 9 to 12 have access to the internet via personal devices, and over 22% of kids admitted to having encountered inappropriate content. It was discovered that many kids lack awareness of basic safety tools such as the block and report buttons. European natural gas prices surged to their highest level since November 2023, and this comes after Russian gas stopped flowing to Europe via Ukraine. The shutdown of the key route, operated for 5 decades, comes after Kiev refused to allow any transit that funds Moscow's war machine. Gas for February advanced as much as 4.5% on Tuesday, hitting €50 a megawatt per hour. Asian stock investors are relatively pessimistic for the start of 2025, and this is according to a Bloomberg survey of 15 fund managers. They cited concerns over Donald Trump's pledge to boost tariffs and the risk of a stronger dollar. 11 of the 15 surveyed said Asia is set to underperform the US. Trump's America First policies will support the dollar and limit the scope for Asian central banks to cut interest rates. China is maintaining strict control over the yuan. Beijing bolstered the currency through the official daily reference rate on the first trading day of 2025. This comes after the yuan fell on the last trading day of 2024 to its lowest level in over 2 years. The central bank fixes a rate for the currency to confine yuan's onshore trading to a 2% range on either side. Nippon Steel proposed granting the US government a veto over any decrease in US Steel's production capacity, and this is a last-ditch move by Nippon Steel to get President Joe Biden's approval for its acquisition of the American firm. This led US Steel shares to surge the most in a year. The plan seeks to resolve concerns expressed by the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States. Last week, it said the Japanese company's acquisition of US Steel will result in a production in American steel production. Shares of US Steel rose as much as 14% on Tuesday after the report, the biggest intraday jump since December 2023. Since the advent of metal containers capable of accommodating 50 refrigerators, which transformed shipping over 70 years ago, dock workers have fought to uphold the significance of skilled labor in global trade. Technological advancements in robotics and automation persist in jeopardizing their positions, particularly at US ports. The International Longshoremen's Association, ILA, a union comprising 47,000 members representing cargo handlers at all major eastern US and Gulf Coast ports, is threatening to strike on the 15th of January. The union leaders want enhanced safeguards against automation, a strike which would provide economic hazards for the nation and a political conundrum for President-elect Donald Trump shortly before his inauguration.